Hey everyone! Welcome back to Ommy'z World, and it's all about the more you know. Today we're going to be talking about African American history and historic buildings. And today we're interviewing Dr. Newt! So, what will you be talking about today?
Well, I want to talk about one of the oldest historically black colleges or universities in the country, called Cheyney University.
So how did the universities begin?
Well, it's a long story, but it actually started back in 1837.
Wow.
And it started a gentleman by the name of Richard Humphrey, who was a plantation owner over in the West Indies. He came to America and he saw how American youth weren't as educated as the youth that were coming from overseas, and they didn't have as many opportunities. So he wanted to start a school for black young men so that they could get educated and have some of the same opportunities. So he started a school, and it was called the Philadelphia School for the Colored.
Why did they name it School for the Colored?
Well, way back then, at that time, black students and white students couldn't go to the same school, so they had to create schools for the black students. And they didn't call them black back then, they called them colored or Negroes. So the Philadelphia Institute for Colored Boys or Colored Children was established just for that. But I got to tell you about that school. It was the bomb. It was known across the country to be the most powerful or the best secondary school for black students. And what happened was a man came to that school, and he had written a book. And the book was called The Negro Is Not a Man. See, this guy didn't like black people. So he figured if he went to the best school and tested them, and if he beat them, then he could say that, his book was true. So what he did was he challenged them. He called the principal and he said, hey, can you put your best math students out against my best math student? And what he was thinking was that the student from the Philadelphia School for the Colored Youth was going to lose. So whenever they put an algebra problem on the board, as soon as they could put it on the board, this student's name was Jesse Glasgow. Man, he blew him out the water, right? Every single one of them, it was embarrassing, right? So what happened was the man who was going to write a book, he had the manuscript there with him. He tore it up on the spot and never wrote the book because that young man from the school, the Philadelphia School of Colored Youth, showed them that black students were just as smart.
You said it was called Cheyney University. How did it change?
Well, that's an excellent question. Outstanding question. Well, a lot of schools back then, they started out as a different name and then the name changed. Well, this one started out as the Institute for Colored Youth in Philadelphia. And after that blowout happened with that guy with the book, right? They bought a farm from a gentleman named George Cheyney, which is about 25 miles west of Philadelphia, and they moved their school there. And at that time, they changed the school to the name of Cheyney Training School for Teachers.
Do you know any famous people that went to Cheyney University?
There were a whole lot of people. I really don't know too many by name. There were several pro football players. Abel Joe was one. John Chaney was the coach for Temple University. He was there. Dick Gregory, a person you may not know, an activist, he went there. The first African American to graduate from Harvard and also from University of Penn also went to Cheyney.
Wait a second. Didn't you graduate from Cheyney University?
Well, you know, what can I say? Of course. Yeah.
Do students still go to Cheyney University?
Yeah, they do. Actually, it's still open and running. It has about 1,000 students right now. The enrollment has dropped a little, but there's 1,000 students there, and maybe one day you can go.
So, what's so popular now about Cheyney University?
Well, other than the fact that it's one of the oldest historically black colleges and universities, man, it has a band, they have a football team, they have a lot of sororities, fraternities, a large performing arts studio, so they do a lot of things like that.
If Cheyney has all these amazing opportunities, then why aren't a lot of students going?
That's a super question, and it's preference, really. So in our communities, our African American communities, a lot of people are choosing to go to what's called PWIs, so predominantly white institutions, because they're larger, they have more money, and their name sounds greater. So they forego going to the smaller historically black college and choose to go to the larger white college. I went to both. I went to Penn State University and to Cheney University, and I think I really was enriched a whole lot more at that black school.
Wow, I feel smarter already! I'm very encouraged to go to Cheney University one day.
Hey guys, listen, there are 101 historically black colleges and universities out there. Get online and check them out. You might find one that you'll like to go to one day.
That's all, Ommy'z World. That was all about the more you know. And we'll be back next time with another African American Black history fact. Bye, Ommy'z World!